Hey guys, and welcome to my first YouTube video. In this video we're going to be discussing the 4 pools ahead of Call of Duty World League New Orleans Open this weekend. Here's a quick overview graphic of all the pools. I'd like to thank COD Gamepedia for this very clean graphic. If you've never checked out their Twitter account and you're a Call of Duty fan, I highly recommend giving them a follow for this weekend. They're a great source of information and updates for the whole event. So I'll leave a link to their Twitter in the description below. Without further ado though, let's dive right into these pools one by one, take a closer look. So first on the docket is going to be Pool A, which to me is a very top-heavy pool. I think that TK is going to do well in attempting to defend their title from Dallas. I think that they've showed so far that they're one of the most consistently most prepared teams in Call of Duty World War II. Second in this group is going to be FaZe Clan. For me, they've solidified themselves as a top 6 North American team. They had a slow start in the online 2Ks, but after playing through that deep and grueling open bracket run in Dallas, they did well once they made it out and solidified themselves in that position. Third in this group is Unilad, which, there's talent on this roster. We saw flashes of greatness from both of the twins throughout last year. But they've yet to have a significant win against a top European team, and that's let alone a top North American team. So, with two of the very top North American teams in their pool, I don't see them putting up too much of a fight against them. Finally, in this group is Mind Freak. They surprised a lot of people with a 9 through 12 placing at Dallas, but that was on the back of an amazing reverse sweep against EG. And don't get me wrong, that's a solid win for this squad, but it's also an EG team that we've seen have a lot of weaknesses here at the start of the year. So it's a good win, but I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a great win. So, I don't see either Unilad or Mindfreak beating either of TK or FaZe, but I do give Mindfreak the edge over Unilad in this pool. And then keep in mind for this pool that the highest seeded open bracket team is going to be slotted in here. So, maybe they can put up a fight if they upset FaZe or TK and finish top 2. I don't really see that happening. I think that TK and FaZe Clan are both really solid rosters and teams. I think they're gonna make it out of this pool. Moving on, the next pool on the docket is Pool B, and for me, this is just by far the weakest pool. Optic. If you're an Optic fan, you should be really happy right now. They should finish first in this group without a shadow of a doubt. They are just objectively a far better team at this point, at least, than every other team in this pool. Envy, the second team in this pool, had a lot of expectations coming into this season. With the return of Hook and Temp, they disbanded their World Championship roster to form this very roster. So, but early on, it's just not looking like it's paying off in World War II. They just haven't really impressed, I don't think, anyone here at the start. They've not got that signature win quite yet. But, that being said, depending on who gets out of the open bracket into this pool, if it's an quote-unquote easier team, they might just be blessed by the COD gods and get away with being just average in this event and have another opportunity to play more matches into this weekend. So we'll see how they do. But the next team on this group is going to be Vitality, and they shocked a lot of people by beating LG in pool play. I know for sure they shocked me. But that all kind of died down, and they finished 17th to 20th, which honestly, I would expect them to finish in that next bracket down yet again. But for this weekend, I just don't expect this French team to make as much noise. I think the teams know now that they can't just completely underestimate this roster, and they're going to need to prepare a little bit and have a little bit more of a serious mindset going into this match. It's not a freebie necessarily. This is a competent team. We saw. But I just don't expect them to for sure. I don't expect them to be Optic, and then I still don't expect them to be Envy. Epsilon is the last team in this pool. They finished 13 through 16 at Dallas, which isn't great, obviously, but it's also not horrible. It's not the worst possibility that they could have had making it into pools, but I was rooting for these guys. I enjoyed watching some of these guys in IW last year, but yeah, I look forward to watching them again this weekend. I expect them to beat Vitality, but I still just don't expect them to be Optic for sure, and then Envy, I still don't. Maybe perform a little bit better against Envy, maybe not a 3-0, maybe a 3-1, but still end up ultimately losing that series. For me, this is the pool that if you're an open bracket team, you want to be slotted here. I think that Envy is the weakest 2 seed in any of the pools. I think that an open bracket team coming into here, all warmed up from the run that they made, could potentially sneak into a top 2 placement in this group. So we'll have to keep our eye out on that going forward. Next on the docket is going to be Pool C. So this is actually a crazy competitive pool, and it's not even the pool of death, at least for me. I think for some people it is, but I think for the majority of people it's not, and that's Pool D, which we'll touch on in just a little bit. But right now, LG, for me, they had a lot to improve on after Dallas. I think they did just that. The very next weekend in Montreal, they came out with a win. Yes, there was only 8 teams, but there were 8 of some of the best teams in the world. So this is a huge confidence booster for this team. They had a disappointing 7th, 8th finish at Dallas, which is crazy to think that a 7th, 8th finish could be disappointing, but for this roster it is. And going forward, they're going to be looking to perform much better, and I think they will here this weekend. So keep our eye out for that. Next in this group is Red Reserve, and they've kind of solidified themselves as the second best European team. The roster consists of one of the roster members on here is Zero, last year's Stage 1 MVP, and the roster overall has a ton of talent, but there's still a large gap between them and Splice, as well as the other top tier NA teams. But that being said, they can definitely compete against those Tier 1 and definitely Tier 3 North American teams. So they should put up a good fight in this group, but I ultimately see them placing in that 9th through 12th range that they got at Dallas. Next in this pool is going to be the new look Rise Nation with a pickup of Methods and Gunless. I really like this team. That is if it performs, right? Everyone needs to perform. So Methods needs to do the slaying that he's expected to do. And if he can do that, I really think that it opens it up for everyone else to do their job. And they can actually do really well this weekend and go on a very deep run. Last in this group is E6. So there's been a lot of stories about them lately leading up to this event, from the Dashy drama immediately following Dallas to 3 or 4 maybe roster changes since Dallas. They had the somewhat shady acquisition of Blastful the day of roster lock, which Sensor did to his old teammate that he just split away from. But, I know there's a ton of talent on this team. A lot of young talent with Dashy and Blastful being 2 of those S&D stars that you kind of expect to be able to do something now in the variant scene. But I just don't see it all working together. This was a team that was strictly formed to be able to add up the pro points to make pool play. And I understand why. They're in a much better position now to make Stage 1, which is everything, really, in Call of Duty, the way the current format is. I'm just not a fan of how it's done. I think that it's just not the roster doesn't really make sense to me. I know there's the talent of the 2 young guns, and then General has proven over the last few years to be quite a dominant at times AR, and Sensor's a competitor at heart, but I just don't like this, and I don't expect them to beat any of these other 3 teams that are of extremely high caliber. So that being said, I expect them to finish last. Depending on who the open bracket team is. And then, LG for me takes this group, and Rise Nation is going to edge out Red. Maybe even Rise could upset LG, if they really come out strong. But they're for sure in the top 2 for me. And that's no hate on Red Reserve. It's a tough pool. And that's how Call of Duty goes sometimes. That's not to say that they can't do well through losers if they do end up having to go that route. So that is how it is. But moving on, Pool D. Finally, this is the pool of death for me, and I think that for pretty much most everyone, this is the pool of death. I just think top to bottom, this is one of the most talented pools that could be put together based on how the grouping sort of stacked up and for the drawing. But yeah, so to start this one out, we have Splice. You know, they proved in Dallas that they're a force to be reckoned with, and they're going to be a force to reckon with all season long. You know, they're finally to the point where they can not only consistently compete against, but more importantly, they can beat top North American teams. It's just unfortunate for them that after all this hard work and putting themselves in this position, that they get slotted into this group with the challenging teams that are here with them. So let's take a look at those. First is E United. You know, this team skyrocketed to Tier 1 status throughout last season, you know, winning CWL Atlanta, then the switch from Gunless to Clayster. I think that for a lot of people heading into this year, they were thought of as a Tier 1 team for World War II. They just haven't, for me, shown the consistency. You know, I'm a big United fan, love the Twins. I followed them all last year. You know, I guess I got on board that hype train. But, you know, they just haven't shown the consistency that I want to see. And then Clayster mentioned it the other day. You know, they keep going to these game 5s. And then if you're pushing yourself to a game 5 every matchup, you know, not only is that a lot of stress and a lot of playing, but, you know, it can come down to a little bit of a coin flip. You know, you lose a couple rounds in a row in that S&D, you lose a lot of momentum, and then all of a sudden it's hard to come back, and you put yourself in a tough position. You know, if they come out slow on Friday, I think that it's probably going to be a pretty poor weekend for them, unfortunately. If they come out hot, it could be a really great weekend for them. It's just kind of one of those teams. There's a lot of talent. They're smart and methodical players, but it just comes down to how they started the tournament for me. Next in this group is Echo Fox with the addition of Aqua. And I think that this should be a really competitive roster. You know, they have a bunch of potential slaying power, you know, to take really any respawn. And then with Vicento reuniting with Aqua, a duo that reoccurred in several different rosters, where they dominated Search and Destroy, I think that game mode could also potentially, I think that's what a lot of people think, maybe that's the idea behind this, is that could, you know, help them out in that game mode as well. So it should be interesting. This is a very solid roster going forward. And then lastly in this group is, you know, Ground Zero. I desperately want to see Parasite succeed after the roller coaster of a career he has had. I think that him and Study dropping Pharaoh and Blast will ultimately be the right move for both parties. Honestly, just Pharaoh, Blast, as well as you know, Parasite and Study, I think that is the best move all around. You know, I'm excited to see the eventual announcement of which organization is backing them. Complexity, allegedly. But you know, that's about all I'm excited for, right? I'm not looking forward to seeing them go up against this tough competition. I think that it's too much too soon for this roster. Hopefully they can come out and perform well enough to get into the you know, Season 1 Pro League. But we'll have to see. It might be a little stressful for them this weekend, and it's going to definitely test their patience. But yeah, all in all in this group, I'm going to have Splice and Echo Fox finishing 1-2 in this group. You know, it pains me a lot to pick against E United, one of my favorite teams, but I hope they surprise me. I just think that if they have a rough first day, it's just not going to be a great weekend for them. And Echo Fox, it's just on paper at least looks like a really strong roster, and that's exciting for this tournament. So yeah, we've made it through the docket for CWL New Orleans, and you know, it should be a great weekend of competition. You know, I really look forward to seeing how these pools end up shaking up. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Remember, you know, these are just my predictions. These are not the end all be all. I'm not an expert, you know, Call of Duty analysis or anything. I'm just a big fan of esports, and especially Call of Duty esports. So I'd like to see where it goes. Now I'm interested to see what you guys have to say in the comments. So if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this. And then stay tuned next week as I'll break down the results from this weekend. See you guys.